Assassin's Creed! Oh gosh, what am I doing? Hello everyone! Welcome to this video. In this video, I'll be reacting to one of the early uploads from the YouTube channel, The Game Theorists. I'm a huge fan of their work and hope that you will like this video as well. This video is about Assassin's Creed! So yeah, let's watch it together. 3 years ago, 2018.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey is going further back in time than any other game in the franchise. All the way back to ancient Greece, one of my personal all-time favorite eras in all of antiquity.
Wow, that is way far in history.
This is blasphemy, you say? Madness? No! This is game theory!
Ooh.
Also a video done in partnership with Ubisoft, so thanks for supporting the channel, guys.
Thank you, Ubisoft. Thank you so much.
Internet, welcome to Game Theory.
Hello.
The show that ventures to break down the science, math, and history of video games to a point where it's not all Greek to you. And if you thought that was a rough
Oh my gosh, it's not Greek to you.
joke, well, just forget I said it. Consider it ancient history. Speaking of ancient history, let's talk Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is coming out later this week, October 5th. As the series continues to rewind to earlier and earlier points in history, which will no doubt eventually end up back to a point where primordial man is just poking each other with sticks.
Primordial man poking each other with sticks. Oh, which is fun. I have to admit, it'll be fun. You know, one of my favorite games to watch, to play will be Primal.
There's only so far back you can go.
Far Cry Primal.
Oh, Odyssey takes a pit stop in 431 BC to visit the Greek Isles just as they're on the brink of warfare. The Peloponnesian War specifically.
The Peloponnesian War. The more you know. The Peloponnesian War. The more you know.
Which pitted two of the world's powerhouses against each other. Athens v Sparta.
Athens v Sparta.
History's greatest minds versus history's greatest warriors. Now, Ubisoft has made it clear that Odyssey is different from the rest of its Assassin Brotherhood because it's ultimately a game about choice, where players can customize their fighting style, romances, and even their plot, leading all the way to a series' first, multiple endings. Your moment-to-moment decisions have a fundamental impact on the story progression, from hero customization to the fate of the people around you, and it's there where things really start to get interesting, because in the game you play as either Alexios or Cassandra, a young Spartan child whose family line has been prophesized to bring doom to the Spartan Empire.
So is it a boy or girl?
So your family takes the reasonable approach, throwing you off a cliff. Hashtag ancient world problems, hashtag not blessed. Fast forward 17 years and suddenly you resurface, a deadly mercenary with an axe to grind. Well, it's really an ancient magical spearhead that was inherited by your legendary war hero grandfather Leonidas. Regardless, you have a chip on your shoulder, figuratively and probably literally from that fall off the mountain, and one major choice in front of you. Who do you side with? Sparta or Athens?
So you can get it. So there are two characters to choose from, and there are two endings, two sides to choose from. So it's wow. That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Your home and your blood, or the people who didn't just drop you off a cliff? That, ladies and gentlemen, is the question. How will your legendary hero define the history of modern civilization through their actions in ancient Greece? Well, that's exactly what I intend to answer today. By looking at the history of the Peloponnesian War, we'll not only have everything we need to make the right decision, but along the way we'll be learning that sometimes the greatest weapon in a legendary warrior's arsenal is knowledge. Cue the sappy graphic!
Aww. It's like, yay! Knowledge is power.
Knowledge really is power. The Peloponnesian War wasn't just a game changer in ancient Greece, but for the entire ancient world. You see, back then, Greece did a lot more than simply supply the world with baklava and Instagrammable destinations for 22-year-old backpackers who are totally finding themselves. No, ancient Greece was literally the center of the civilized world and spent pretty much all their time either conquering other people or smacking down people who wanted to conquer them. Unfortunately, the problem wasn't always their enemies on the outside, like the Persians or the Egyptians. It was actually that they couldn't get along on the inside.
Oh.
If ancient Greece were a high school, think of Athens as being the nerdy kids from the north and Sparta being the buff jocks from the south side. In the north, Athens might not have been getting dates to the prom, but they were all like, we're gonna invent stuff like democracy and alarm clocks and triangles. And Sparta was like,
Triangles. Trigonometry. Get it? Get it? Get it? Trigonometry. Triangles.
yeah, bro, that's stupid. No one cares what time you get up if your city's being burned down. Which I gotta say is a fair point. We're oligarchs. It's all about the military, bro. And oh yeah, we get all the ladies with our massive pecs. So even though you land in Odyssey at the beginning of the Peloponnesian War, these guys haven't been seeing eye to eye for a long time. Leading up to the war, both sides were in the middle of a 30-year peace treaty, which really wasn't much of a peace treaty since both sides totally were cheating on it. Basically all the time. They would help out an ally here, they would send a few little reinforcements to the enemy over there. After a few shady dealings, both sides started to feel a little resentful, and the whole situation completely melted down.
A little resentful. It's like, you know, just a little bit resentful and just boom.
And exploded, creating the Peloponnesian War.
The Peloponnesian War.
So, then, when confronted with the choice in the game, which side do you support? Let's break it down with Athens first. Why would you, a Spartan warrior bro, or warrior sis, want to back a rival city-state of Athens in the game? Well, outside of the tiny detail of them not trying to kill you when you were a child, honestly, the biggest reason is because Athens was simply awesome. It was the center of the world. It was responsible for the golden age of Greece, which is basically the period of Greek history famous for tons of inventions and knowledge that we are still using today, 2.5 millennia later. It's the stuff that you hear about in history books from—
Yes, it's not for hundreds of years, it's for thousands of years. They are awesome individuals. Yes.
philosophy to theater to engineering, all straight from the minds of the Athenian people. Greek warriors sailing around in huge fleets of ships, that's mostly Athenians too, who were renowned for their naval force at the time. Even geometry. Yeah, sorry to every 10th grader out there, but that was also an Athenian invention. Which, can I just say, how easy must it have been to invent something way back in the Greek days? You draw a few lines, you connect them, boom, suddenly you're the father of geometry.
Oh, yeah.
Whoopity-doo, I can squiggle on my stone tablet pad too, friend. Anyway, in the game when you're fighting on the side of Athens, or the Attic side as it's called in history, you're playing on behalf of the most advanced civilization in the Western world. But what if you're more of a brawn over brains type? Let's look at what Sparta has to offer our entrepreneurial little mercenary. First and foremost, there's really no debating that Spartans were the most feared warriors of the ancient world, but you don't have to take my word for it. Consider this story for proof. Around 345 BC, Philip II of Macedon, Alexander the Great's father, had conquered a good chunk of the Greek city-states and soon set his sights on Sparta. He even went so far as to send him a threat. Quote, "If I bring my army into your land, I will destroy your farms, slay your people, and raze your city." Sparta replied with one word, if.
If! Oh my god, that's OP, man. It's like, ooh, wow. If.
About the greatest thug life moment in history. And even more impressive, it worked. Philip II and Alexander the Great never actually tried to conquer Sparta. Now, that story alone should make you want to fight on behalf of that city-state, but if you really want context, we have to start by understanding what made Sparta so feared. For boys born in ancient Sparta, their consideration as potential soldiers began literally right after they were born, when they were inspected by a council of elders named the Gerousia to determine if the boys looked physically fit enough to fight in the army.
So either you, if you're born as a boy, you die or you fight. Yeah.
If not, they were left on the mountain to die, which is a pretty stiff selection process when you consider that pretty much all babies do is just smack themselves in the head repeatedly for the first 3 months of life as they try to learn basic motor control. Ah yes, this baby's flailing arms will do a fine job of holding a shield one day. Then, when a Spartan boy was about 6 or 7 years old, he was drafted into the army and began his training via a system known as a goge, which included everything from singing to hunting to, of course, fighting and pain tolerance. Boys often marched barefoot and were underfed so that they wouldn't be fazed by harsh conditions when they were at war. Underfeeding the boys also incentivized them to steal so that they could practice fending for themselves.
Wait, incentivize them to steal? Like, they're teaching them stealing is a good thing? There must be consequences, isn't it?
Though they would face strict punishment, not for the stealing itself,
What?
but for being careless enough to be caught.
Oh!
One story meant to exemplify these values instilled in Spartan boys goes as follows. A young soldier, about 13 years old, steals a fox from a neighboring village. But when he's spotted by his superior, he hides the fox under his tunic. The fox begins scratching and biting the boy, tearing into him, but the boy doesn't flinch. He doesn't reveal how much pain he's in to his superior and is successfully able to hide his stolen pet, even though it injured him so badly that he eventually died from his wounds. What does the fox say? Let me out! What does the boy say? Nothing, because he's a Spartan through and through, and because he eventually died. Suffice it to say that toughness was valued among the Spartans, and not just in their demeanor, but also in their fighting style. Even though Spartan soldiers would carry javelins, they generally rejected ranged weapons and would even outsource their archery to mercenaries, most frequently from the island of Crete. The writer Plutarch even tells the story of how one Spartan soldier in the Peloponnesian War who was mortally wounded by an arrow said that he was not afraid to die, he was just disappointed that he'd been killed by such a cowardly weapon. Even when
Such, cowardly weapons and arrows are cowardly weapons. Oh gosh, what would he think about bullets, rifles, bombs? Oh my gosh.
Spartans had no weapons at all, they still put up one heck of a fight. Ancient Greeks practiced a sport named pancration, which was sort of like the grandfather of mixed martial arts. Pancration was an ancient Olympic sport that involved boxing, kicking, submission holds, chokes, throws, and pretty much anything else besides biting and gouging out eyes. Fun fact, the straight kick to the stomach or chest that was made famous in the movie 300 was actually a pretty common pancration move. It's even memorialized in pottery and mentioned by the Greek writer Lucian, and by this game. You wanna front punt a lion? Be my guest, because it is historically accurate. Oh, and you know how I said that there was no biting or gouging allowed in pancration? Well, there's one place in the Greek world where they weren't banned, and you guessed it, it was Sparta. These are the kind of tactics that would have made old Leonidas proud. So, outside of aligning yourself with history's most intimidating warriors, why would it make sense to choose Sparta in Assassin's Creed Odyssey? Well, ultimately, most people agree that it was Athens to blame for starting the Peloponnesian War in the first place, since they technically broke more of the rules of the peace treaty with Sparta. Call it revenge of the nerds, but for all that bravado of the Spartans, it was actually Athens that were arrogant and warmongering by making secret alliances behind the scenes. Then there's the Battle of Sphacteria, where Athens...
The Battle of Sphacteria. A lot of facts. A lot of history facts. So, the more you know.
really started to look like the bad guys in this war through their use of hostages. Up to that point in the war, Sparta looked unbeatable. But in the words of Donald Kagan in his book The Peloponnesian War, quote, Sphacteria had changed the nature of war. Spartans, it had been supposed, would never surrender. Now, with Spartiate hostages in their hands, the Athenians issued an ultimatum. Any invasion of Attica would lead to the execution of the prisoners. End quote. Through this dishonorable maneuver, threatening to kill off the 292 captured soldiers should Sparta decide to attack the island, Athens was able to get the unbeatable Spartan soldiers to not only surrender control of the area, but also prolong the war for multiple more years. So choosing to assume your ranks as a Spartan hero not only has you siding with arguably the more honorable warriors, but you'd ultimately be siding with the winners as well. Sorry, spoiler alert, but it literally happened 2,500 years ago, so I feel like the statute of limitations on spoilers is pretty much over at the...
It's like, spoilers. But having said that, it occurred more than 2,500 years ago. So yeah. Like, if you don't know, it's sort of you could have read up on any textbooks. It's not any textbook, but most history books will just mention it. Most.
Point. Sparta was able to overcome the Athenian naval force, take out their food supplies, and ultimately siege the city-state into submission. Honorable warriors until the very end, despite Sparta's allies demanding that Athens be destroyed and all of its citizens enslaved, Sparta announced their refusal to destroy a city that had done a good service at a time of greatest danger to Greece. And so they preserved Athens and took it into their own system. Normally, I would be all aboard siding with the nerds, but in this case, you're honorable, you're a badass, and most importantly of all, you win, which sets history down the course it took in real life, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Already 3 solid reasons.
Honorable, badass, winning!
That's why Sparta deserves your mercenary skills. But there is one final reason siding with Sparta makes sense, and it's not tied to grandiose honor codes or sweeping historic power struggles. It's what every war story ultimately boils down to: the human element. Individual fighters on the battlefield, caught up in the political machinations that are far above them. In this case, it's important to remember that your character is a mercenary first and foremost, and Sparta was a warrior city-state, actively looking to expand their power. And that means one thing.
You are a mercenary in the games. You are not a poem. You are not a merchant. You are a mercenary. In the games, you play as someone that fights for survival. So yeah. Sort of. That's why.
War. A warrior culture that's hungry for battle, that's not ashamed to hire out mercenaries to fill out their ranks, is, quite frankly, good for business. And the business of war is one that you're going to want to continue when you're an assassin, if for no other reason than to keep food on the table. So when you pick up and play Assassin's Creed Odyssey and are offered the choice, remember, while we all might be drawn to the nerdy, in this case, siding with history is the one true path.
Siding with history. Yeah. So, yeah, maybe it's too much muscles, but history, there's a saying, those who do not learn history are doomed to repeat it. So, yeah, we learn from history, and history says that Sparta wins. Spoiler alert, but it happened 2.5 million years ago, or 2.5 thousand years ago, so you should have known that.
To victory. But hey!
Famously warlike city-states. Most famous battle is one where they get their...
That's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Oh. That's quite OP actually, if you think about it. Like, for one mercenary, because ultimately speaking, you are playing as a mercenary in the game, so yeah. Not as a merchant, not as someone else, not as a poem, not as a politician. You are a mercenary. Literally, Assassin's Creed. You are in the games. You are an assassin. So yeah, Yes. Anyways, I hope that you like this video as much as I did, because I learned a lot of new things, a lot of knowledgeable, a lot of wisdom-filled things, and yeah. If you are interested in watching more of their content as well, this video is from the YouTube channel, the Game Theorists. I highly recommend watching more of their videos, and do subscribe them, follow them, like them, comment, and show support for them, because ultimately speaking, they are what motivated me, inspired me, encouraged me, and for me to step on this platform to do more of this kind of videos. So thank you so much, and also thank you to all of you watching this video right now. Thank you. To be honest, I really sincerely appreciate it. Thank you so much. If you do like this video, please consider to like, share and subscribe to my channel, and comment down below if you have anything to share with us. And do follow my channel as well. Thank you. So remember, it's like, share, subscribe, comment and follow. Thank you. And what is it? But hey, that's just a theory, a game theory. Thanks for watching. But hey, that's just a history fact. Thanks for watching. Hey, gosh.